Joining me now, Fox News contributor, former Utah Congressman Jason Chaffetz, author of The Deep State, How an Army of Bureaucrats Protected Barack Obama and is Working to Destroy the Trump Agenda. Turning Point USA Communications Director Candace Owens, and Fox News legal analyst and author of the bestseller, The Russia Hoax, The Illicit Scheme to Clear Hillary Clinton and Frame Donald Trump, Greg Jarrett. All right, everyone, what do we make of this?
Nobody knows the truth of what happened until the accuser and the accused have an opportunity to speak publicly about it. You know, the legal landscape is littered with false accusations. The Duke LaCrosse case, the UVA rape case. So we just don't know. I mean, she may well be telling the truth, but we don't know. Dr. Ford.
Dr. Ford, and now we have a new accuser.
Well, under advice and consent under the Constitution, it's whatever the Senate wants it to be. But every salacious story that's coming out after the hearing was closed, by the way. I mean, he's been out there since July. And now you have this new salacious thing, which I think is terribly unfair, without any evidence. You read through the article, and time again, it says, well, this could have maybe happened, maybe.
Right, this is the Deborah Ramirez, the new one tonight. Candace?
Look, I think this is absolutely infuriating. I am thinking that this is despicable behavior, and it's a typical leftist tactic to stall. They are constantly trying to stop this administration from having any wins, and this is the natural trail that they follow. First, they create mass hysteria by saying that if this person is elected or if this person is selected or confirmed, they're going to dial back human rights. We saw that with the whole abortion thing. Then, if that fails, they move to number two, which is racism. They somehow accuse the candidate of being racist, which we saw with Cory Booker's absurd "I am Spartacus" moment, which in fact proved that he was not racist. And now we're at number three, which is the Me Too witch hunt, which has been going on for way too long. It makes due process go away, and they assume that because rape and sexual assault is such a sensitive topic, as it should be, that they can just throw around baseless allegations. I do not believe either of these women. I believe this is just simply the left pulling out leftist tactics to stop this conservative.
Well, I just want to, I mean, look, you called it a witch hunt, and you said you don't believe them, and others do. And I think what that shows actually is the interesting fact here. It's something that behavioural scientists call confirmation bias. You know, depending on your own prior point of view, you believe the evidence you want to believe. I just want to be fair about this, if I can, and you please weigh in with your opinions. But there's a couple of red flags on either side, even before tonight's news, that I just wanted to sort of point to. One on each, actually. I'm interested. It's a detail, but I think it could be important. One of the things we heard, let's just start with Dr. Ford's side. One of the things we heard a lot last week was, let's learn from the Anita Hill process. Let's not have unqualified senators ask questions. Let's get professionals in who really understand these sorts of things and have them ask the questions. And that wouldn't be the senators. But then when you get to the legal team, Dr. Ford herself, her lawyers, went for precisely the opposite. They're insisting that it's Republican senators. Now, that tells you something, doesn't it, about what this is all about?
The FBI perhaps will eventually get involved now that there are additional accusers that are coming out. But he's already gone through 6 FBI investigations. These things are very detailed. I mean, they talk to your kindergarten teacher and every neighbor you've ever had. They talk to all of your classmates and, you know, your friends and relatives and so forth. None of this has ever come up. In 6 different FBI investigations of Brett Kavanaugh over 25 years. All of a sudden, these people are now speaking out with their accusations, which they should be heard respectfully, they should be considered. But I find it curious and suspicious that he was nominated on July 9th. And here we are at the end of September, and all of a sudden these people are coming forward.
But just in the tactics of it, funnily enough, I've been thinking, especially after what Chad Program said about the fact we actually got still a lot of time to get this done, if that's what your goal is. Why don't give them the FBI investigation? Just give it to them so they can't always hold that against you.
But that's not the way the Congress works. I can tell you, I was the chairman of a committee, the Oversight Committee. We did plenty of investigations, but Congress did them, not the FBI. That's just not how it works. They're there to do a background, learn everything they can, interview everybody that they can. But the advice and the consent isn't from the executive branch. The advice and the consent is solely from the United States Senate.
That it did happen that the first Bush administration did it in relation to Anita Hill.
They did do an FBI check on that. And look, the White House could request the FBI do one more background check in light of these new accusations. Chad was brilliant in laying out the 5-week timetable. There is time to do it.
It would take away that argument.
I don't see the rush, frankly.
So, but Candace, let's go back to the lawyers. It seems to me that they want the spectacle.
Absolutely.
Of as they describe it, whatever it is, 10 white old men.
And here's the thing.
Rather than what the Republicans offered, which is a female attorney handling the questioning. But they rejected that. That tells you something about their motivation.
Yes, and this is their motivations. From start to finish, this has been a giant spectacle, and we are seeing that. And I'm telling you, conservatives have to stand together, and we have to vote in midterms, because this is what is at stake. They are going to do this by any means necessary to stop this confirmation. Think about what they've done already to his family, what his wife is going through, what his children are going through, watching these smears come out. I do not believe this whatsoever, and I'm confident that the Me Too movement has now become a political weapon, and is a political weapon that belongs to the left, because conservatives would never do this.
Well, we are going to look at the politics of it, particularly the hypocrisy. One of the things that really got me this week was the hypocrisy of the Democrats. We've got really good stuff for you on that later in the show. But, I mean, do you think at the end of all this that, I mean, it's not provable, is it? None of this is provable. In the end,
there is not a prosecutor in this country that would take these cases to court. It's not a criminal investigation. That's in part why the FBI is not involved. Right. But there is scant to no evidence. You want to respectfully hear from this person, and Senator Grassley has bent over backwards in adjusting the rules of the Senate to accommodate her. Private. Do we do it in public? Do we do it in California? Do we do it in Washington, D.C.? But you don't come into the negotiation into the United States Senate and start to say, well, this is who can ask questions and who can't. That's not the way it works.
Right. You know, as a lawyer, I'm fairly familiar with statutes of limitations. In Maryland, actually, there is none on sexual assault. However, from a practical standpoint, a case that's 35, 36 years old, it's in which the accuser doesn't remember all the people who were there, how she got there, how she got home, where it happened, the house it occurred, and she's not even sure of the time period, frankly. So that is an unprovable case, and I agree with Jason. No prosecutor in their right mind would ever take that case.
But what? Go on,
and I'm just going to add this, and all of these women, they all demand a full FBI investigation after slipping out of amnesia of 35-plus years, right? What are the chances that on top of all of that, they decide to come out with their story to the Washington Post and the New Yorker, publications that have basically been in cahoots trying to stop this administration at every chance that they could get? All of this reeks to me. It absolutely reeks. I believe that this is completely dishonest.
I mean, the argument that's made, just to sort of put that side of it, is that something about the trauma means that you don't want to talk about it at the time. There's lots of evidence psychologically that could explain the delay.
But when you want to come out, you go to the Washington Post.
But what's interesting, I think, is that now you have the. What I think is interesting about this news tonight, and then we have another one tomorrow, apparently, thanks to good old Michael Avenatti, is that one of the arguments prior to that was this is so out of character for Brett Kavanaugh. How can you believe? Look at his whole life, unblemished and so on. It seems like that's what they're trying to chip away at with these stories.
But in the Ford situation, the so-called witnesses were there have all now issued letters to the Senate committee saying they don't have any recollection of it. So the so-called witnesses, there are none except for the accuser herself. Yeah. Again, the Senate's going to have to go through this, but she doesn't remember the year, doesn't remember the place, can't tell you who was there.
But it is interesting, isn't it? I thought that in the statements from the White House, particularly the White House, a very strong statement tonight, and used that word smear. I thought that shows that there's it feels like there's an anger there about what's going on.
Because they've lived it. They've lived it. This is exactly what happened during Trump's election campaign.
Well, and it's important in this case, the latest revelation, like the Dr. Ford case, there's nobody to corroborate it. Which is always something that jurors consider. Now, this is a political exercise, I realize, before the Senate Judiciary Committee, but we do borrow some principles from the law, and one of them that's a foundation of American democracy is presumption of innocence. But when you listen to people like Senator Kirsten Gillibrand of New York, who stood in front of cameras and pronounced that the accuser was telling the truth, and she believed her without ever talking to the accuser. Gillibrand's never even met her. Gillibrand must have slept through UCLA's law school class on presumption of innocence. She's really an embarrassment to the legal profession.
We'll be seeing more of Senator Gillibrand later on. I'm just going to leave that with you. I think you'll enjoy it.